big question always when we're telling stories is not, did I say it? The big question is, do they see it? Do they see it?
He got so tiny that the medicine chief put him inside a hollow reed. He set it to his bow, and he shot it into the sky, and it stuck up there, and it turned into a star.
I'm Monty Powell, and you're here in PowellsWood Garden, which is located right above Puget Sound, and this is our inaugural storytelling festival. We hope to do more in the future, and we brought to us some of the best tellers in the United States, and some even who have international reputations.
The audience can always hear more than I know I'm telling. That's the big thing. They hear more than I know I'm telling. And so I have to listen back to them telling me what it is I'm telling. And that's a real important thing. And I can work on a story forever, but until the story is in front of an audience, it's not in its real working place. It's not in the place. It's almost like it's in the pot, but you haven't turned the heat on yet. So it's not. We can't cook yet because we don't have all the factors working. We pulled in, tooted the horn. Charlie himself came out, and we ordered 4 Charlie burgers and French fries and a big treat, 1 for each of us, 4 bottle Coca-Colas. In a little while, the food came out in a little greasy bag, and Charlie had the Coca-Colas unopened in those big old green glass returnable bottles stuck between his fingers so we could take them home and open them when we got there. And as he handed the food in the car window, my dad said, "How much is it?" And as Charlie handed the bottles in, he said, "Well, do you have any empty bottles to swap?" Because there was a 2-cent deposit on those big green glass bottles unless you had empty ones to turn in at the same time. We always had empty bottles.
Okay, we were really excited to have the kids come into the garden and experience not just stories but also the garden. So we designed their tour in such a way that they came in, were met by a guide who took them down through the garden to a little tent in the perennial garden where they sat among these beautiful flowers and heard stories.
Well, a lot of it, I think, is finding the right story that you can tell. I think the Aborigines have a saying that stories are in search of tellers. And so I read lots and lots of stories, lots of folk tales. And when you find one that all of a sudden, that hits you or resonates with you somehow, it's something inside of you that it speaks, that, it touches something inside of you. To me, those are the stories I pay attention to. But the door was closed, and how are we going to get inside? The monkey said, no problem. I can get inside. I climb over the walls, but I need a distraction. First. And the pheasant said, no problem. And the pheasant flew over the wall. And on the inside of this courtyard of all this castle, all these ogres laying about. And the pheasant began going, Kira, 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 earthquake, disaster, Momotaro. Earthquake! Disaster! Momotaro! All these Onis looked up with. Earthquake? Disaster? Momotaro? What's a Momotaro?
And for me, sometimes it's not even me just finding stories in my culture. I guess it's me putting my culture into the story. Because I find a lot of the stories that I find, they're not maybe not African stories or African American stories, but by the time I finish with it, I guess I put so much of myself into it that it becomes part of me and it's part of my culture. And that's what storytelling is about. These stories are passed on through different cultures because you do add that piece of you into it. Che che Kool-Aid, che che Kool-Aid, che che Kool-Aid, che che Kool-Aid, che che Kofisa, che che Kofisa, che che Kofisa, che che Kofisa, Kofi Salanga, Kofi Salanga, Kofi Salanga, Kofi Salanga, Kete Chalanga, Kete Chalanga, Kete Chalanga, Kete Chalanga, Kum and dang dang, Kum and dang dang, Kum and dang dang, hey!
And I'm always saying this to the kids too. The only person that can teach you how to tell a story is the people who are listening to it. And the only really unforgivable mistake you can make when you tell stories is not to pay attention to your listeners. Because if you pay attention to them, they will teach you how you should tell that story. They looked to their left, they looked to their right, and then they opened up their beaks and they sang. And they sang like this. Ding-gang-ga-oh, ding-gang-ga-oh, yo mama ganga-re-re. The little ones went skipping across the water. Papi, mami, papi, mami. Oh, estuvieron un gran rato abrazándose.
Eth-No-Tec is kinetic story theater, and it's a chemistry and alchemy of dancer, theater, music, social activism. You know, we really believe that what we do as artists is to sort of uplift the human spirit. If you're using a prop like a flute or even thing, and then you need to be a storyteller, well then you can use it like this. You could hide it, you could gesture with it, or be a character with it. Yes, you can. You can. Oh, I gotta go to work. What's that? Ah, dinner. We call first.
If you don't have focus, you don't have anything, really. Because if you have someone on stage who's like not focused and they're kind of looking all over the place, and then they tell the story like this, and they're so uncomfortable, you know, it just, the audience becomes uncomfortable. So to be able to focus and bring your energy through and shine it on who is in the audience. This is a gift. I have a story for you. This is a gift for you from me. And I want to share that with you. And I know that your getting the story will give it back to me.
And so this we dedicate to all of you. And it is from China, and it is called Heaven and Hell.
In hell, there is an elegant banquet laid before the people, tantalizing dishes, dazzling desserts, the finest cuisine. But in hell, the people must eat with 3-foot-long chopsticks. They struggle and strain, there's torture and pain as each craving soul tries to feed oneself. The people starve. Such is hell.
Oh, in heaven it is very different. In heaven,
there is an elegant banquet laid before the people, tantalizing dishes, dazzling desserts, the finest cuisine.
And in heaven, the people must also eat with
3-foot-long chopsticks.
But there is no struggle or strain, for in heaven, the people use their
3-foot-long chopsticks to help feed one another. Such is heaven.
You know, what I can do as a story maker is the same thing a gardener can do. I can gather seeds. You know, I can gather this, and the seeds are all these pieces of memory. But then you take this ultimate step of trust, which is that you bury it, and then let it grow. And you know and you don't know what's going to grow. That's the magical thing. You know and you don't know. Because what you know is, you know what happened. What you don't know is, you don't know how the story is going to rebuild your relationship to what happened.
Mona, why are you crying?
I'm a monkey. You don't want to dance with a monkey.
Well, of course we want to dance with a monkey. We came to find you so that you could teach all of us the monkey dance.
Really?
Yeah.
You like my dancing?
We love your dancing.
I can come dance with you?
Would you please come dance with us? Could she come dance with us? Yeah, come on, Mona.
Bring all the monkey friends? Yeah,
bring on
and
over.
Mona came down and she brought all her monkey friends and they had a super party. Right now, can you be the monkeys, my friends?
This will be the monkeys over here from
and
this
then we'll
side.
trade.
And we'll be
You
the
can
humans,
monkeys,
okay?
Okay, so let's start over here with monkeys
here we go,
Okay, ready? Here we
Samba,
go.
samba, samba, hip, samba, samba,
I'm sorry.
samba, hip, samba, samba, samba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And just to let you switch, because everyone wants to be a monkey.
We usually have children that
Really
do
important.
everything.
Right. We'll switch off and here we go. Samba.
Samba, nice. Samba, hip. Samba, 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 samba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Samba, 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 samba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mona, mona, monissima, mona, mona, monissima, mona, mona, monissima. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let me just tell you that Donald Davis has some moves.